Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really gripping conversation from some ancient texts, and it breaks down the exact moment an arrogant mistake transforms into an absolute inevitable disaster. We're looking at a pivotal sequence in the Mahabharata, specifically a fascinating dialogue between a blind king and his advisor. We're going to dissect the anatomy of a calamity that was, honestly, entirely self-inflicted.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. At what exact point does a simple mistake, a lapse in judgment or maybe an arrogant overstep, at what point does that become a completely unstoppable disaster? Like, is it the act itself, or is it the stubborn refusal to correct course afterward? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we explore the devastating consequences of crossing moral lines in this ancient epic.
All right, Section 1, the point of no return. Just to get our bearings with the specific text we're looking at, here's a quick refresher on the names, the epithets being used. Falguna and Partha, those refer to Arjuna, the ultimate unmatched warrior. Hari, Damodara, and Vasudeva all evoked the supreme divine protector, Krishna. And, of course, the Pandavas are the 5 righteous brothers who have been horribly wronged. Keeping these specific names straight makes the sheer scale of the impending doom so much clearer. Okay, so the dialogue opens with Sanjaya serving some incredibly harsh truths to the king. He makes it crystal clear that the Pandavas are filled with this immeasurable energy. They are utterly incensed. And crucially, he warns the king that they will absolutely not forgive the Kauravas for what they've done. I mean, there is literally no diplomatic way out of this anymore. The stage for a catastrophic clash, it's permanently set. Which brings us to Section 2, the fatal insult. The source really zeroes in on this terrible moment of profound humiliation. You see, the inciting incident here wasn't some political border dispute or stolen gold. It was a deeply personal, horrifying insult. Krishna, who is referred to here as Draupadi, the wedded wife of the Pandavas, a woman of pure fame, was physically dragged into the royal assembly. And it wasn't just the physical act, as awful as that is. It was compounded by these cruel, mocking words from the king's allies, Dussasana and Karna. To make matters even worse, the king's son, Duryodhana, arrogantly and disrespectfully showed his thighs to Draupadi. In their culture, that is an act of ultimate degradation. Now, check out the sheer visceral threat jumping off the page from Bhima's brutal promise. As he's watching Duryodhana's insulting gesture with quivering lips, he doesn't just make a vague threat to kill him, he promises poetic justice. He says, "Wretch, those thighs of thine will I smash with my fierce descending mace on the expiration of 13 years. Because Duryodhana used his thighs to insult their wife, Bhima vows to smash those exact thighs." This brilliantly illustrates this agonizing countdown from the inciting offense to the terrifying realization of its consequences. Think about it. The humiliation happens at year 0, but Bhishma explicitly vows this revenge will happen on the expiration of 13 years. That's a 13-year waiting period. 13 years for the perpetrators to realize exactly what is coming for them. The psychological weight of this pending doom is exactly what is crushing King Dhritarashtra in the present moment of our text. Let's move to Section 3, Arsenal of the Gods. So, Arjuna's impressive celestial resume reveals how he literally strove to see the gods in their true forms and secured their immense power. Sanjaya is reminding the king here that Arjuna didn't just, train hard. He has literal divine endorsements. He gratified the god of gods, Sanu. He fought Kapardhan, who was testing him in disguise. He received weapons directly from the Lokapala. The text even includes this deeply intimate detail that he was clasped by Mahadeva in his arms, which signifies ultimate divine approval. So the crucial takeaway here is that the king's sons aren't just facing some angry men. They're facing a warrior who has withstood the might of gods, possessed of 8 and 11 forms. It's wild. And it's not just mystical, unseen encounters either. Sanjaya points to hard historical evidence. By assisting Damodara to help Agni, the fire god, in the legendary burning of the Pandava forest, Arjuna proved to the king that his prowess isn't just a myth, it is a universally recognized fact. The source explicitly says this feat was witnessed by all the world. All right, on to Section 4, a blind king's despair. The king laments his whole situation with this genuinely heartbreaking quote. "Seeing me void of eyesight and incapable of exerting myself actively, my wretched son, O charioteer, believeth me to be a fool and listeneth not to my words." The king is recognizing his blindness here, both literal and metaphorical. He knows exactly what a horrific mistake was made in that assembly. He knows his son is refusing to walk the path of righteousness. Yet because he can't actively exert himself, his son just dismisses him entirely. It's the ultimate tragedy, right? Knowing exactly how the ship is going to sink, but being totally locked out of the steering room. Now, consider the stark contrast between the two camps. On one side, you have Duryodhana, surrounded by what his own father calls wretches and wicked counselors like Karna and Suvala. And why are they wicked? Well, because, as the text states, they always pander to his vices. They just tell him what he wants to hear. Then, on the other side, Arjuna is counseled, protected, and befriended by Hari, the smiter of sinful men and lord of the three worlds. It's an absolute mismatch. One camp is built on echo chambers of vice, the other is backed by supreme divine wisdom. Which leads us to Section 5, the cost of hubris. Here, the king realizes the terrifying mechanics of what's actually going to happen on the battlefield. We're not just talking about regular arrows being fired. According to the text, Arjuna's arrows are inspired with mantras, transforming them into celestial weapons, capable of chastising the celestials themselves. The king notes with utter despair that even shafts lightly shot by Arjuna could consume all his sons. I mean, just imagine what those arrows will do when they're impelled by 13 years of agonizing, righteous anger. Ultimately, the king realizes that against an enraged Bhima, Partha, and Vasudeva, his sons are entirely unequal to the fight. The anatomy of this calamity maps out so clearly. Step 1, committing the unforgivable insult. Step 2, refusing to correct it and instead pandering to vices with wicked counselors. And step 3, the unavoidable consequence, facing enraged, divinely backed warriors. The tragic truth the king finally accepts is that this disaster didn't just happen by chance. It was engineered step by step by his son's own hubris. So, we'll leave you with this thought to consider in your own life. The dynamic of King Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana emphasizes this timeless lesson. Arrogance, when combined with poor counsel that only panders to our vices, inevitably leads to self-destruction. So who are your counselors? Are the people around you telling you the hard truths you need to hear, or are they just validating your worst impulses and leading you toward ruin? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the path you're walking.